Tuesday night. It's time for Second Look, and we are joined by folks here live and in person. And for all you folks out there, ladies and gentlemen, and all the ships at sea, we welcome you wherever you may be. Revelation 21 and 22 is our spot today. Let me kind of talk about what we're doing here. It's my hope that we will finish Revelation by the end of January, whatever we do here at the tail end of December, and we'll talk about it after a session tonight, what your pleasure is. But January, we want to finish up with the end of chapter 22, and then beginning in February, I want to do a 2-month series on the speeches, Sunday morning, on the speeches in the book of Acts, and kind of give an overview of that book, but through the speeches. Pretty fascinating stuff, by the way. We're even going to look at a couple pagan speeches in the book of Acts. But anyway, I want to do that. And then what that'll do, I hope, will do for us is return Tuesday night back to what it was originally intended to be. That's why it's called Second Look, that we would look backwards at the previous Sunday and kind of hash that out. We got all tripped up and bummed up along the way, and here we've been a long time on this. But anyway, that's the plan, so look forward to that. 21-22 is where we are. What we're looking at, and it's really going to come to a head here in 21 and 22 as we wrap up Revelation. What we're really looking at is kind of addressing the issue of what parts of the Old Testament are important to John as he tries to explain these visions that he's getting. Because he's been commanded not only to see the visions, privileged for that, but he's been commanded to write what you see, record it. How do I do that? So what we've been looking at is the way, throughout this series, is the way he repurposes what he knows, the Old Testament, some apocryphal stuff too, some of the Dead Sea Scroll-y type stuff. But the main question, and it's really going to come to a head here in the last 2 chapters, is what parts of the Old Testament are important to John as he tries to explain the series of visions. He gets this content and how to do it, how to say it. And he dips into the Old Testament to help us see what he sees. Now, did he actually see these things? Like, let's say, did he see a lamb slain from the foundation of the world? We don't know what he really saw. Maybe he did. But what we do know is that he uses pictures, metaphors, things he draws from the Old Testament to try and help us grasp what he saw, the meaning of what he saw. So we'll talk about it here in a minute. The danger of being over literal when we look at some of these things can really trip us up. But anyway, so our issue is, and continues to be, but really on steroids here the last 2 chapters, is how does the Old Testament provide a framework and a place to think about what John is trying to convey to us. Because it's pretty clear that the key to unlocking this book is not to decode it, not to try and make a timeline of it, but to read it the way he read it through the lens of the Old Testament. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. The things that we're going to look at specifically tonight, we're going to touch on the temple and a few other things adjacent to that. The whole temple motif, and we've looked at that in the past already. We've looked at it through Ezekiel, we've looked at it through Isaiah, through Jeremiah, a lot through Zechariah. He has a lot to say about the temple restored, and we're going to hit on that tonight in chapter 21. And what the book of Revelation does, John does with the new heaven and the new earth and all of that. What happens with the temple in the book of Revelation? We find out that the temple that Ezekiel has been concerned about, that Isaiah and Jeremiah saw destroyed and then restored, Zechariah is worried about, that the temple, there is no temple. The New Jerusalem is the temple. The new creation is the temple. And Christ is the temple. That's what we're going to find out. So, let's run and gun. Before we jump in here, this whole temple focus here, this whole temple emphasis here, it looks kind of strange to us, but it's really not strange according to the rest of Scripture, to the Old Testament. It's not an anomaly in any way. It's not outside of what's been done already in the past. We referenced Ezekiel and Jeremiah and Isaiah and especially Zechariah. It's not outside of what they do with this whole temple picture, only to us, because we're not as familiar with it as John was and as they were and as his audience was. So what happened to the temple is the Lord is the temple, God is the temple, the new creation is the temple. Anyway, so we're going to look at how all these images are connected to our Old Testament. Let's jump in, and I don't know any better way to do it than do it. Because it's a good translation, follow along in your Bible, whatever you have. Let's just read chapter 21. It's not long, and I promise I won't draw it out. This is from the ESV, English Standard Version, which is a very good version of Revelation. Then I saw a new heaven. Again, this is his last vision. Then he sets it up. I saw a new heaven and a new earth. What happened to the first heaven and the first earth? For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. They're gone. And the sea was no more. We're going to come back to that very intriguing phrase. If you've been with us all along, the wheels are turning and you're kind of forming some ideas about what he means by the sea is no more. I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. Okay? It came from there. Prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. There's just so many rich images here. We're not going to have time to pull them all apart. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Behold, the dwelling place of God is with men." That's a very significant phrase. We see it over and over again in the Old Testament. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. And death shall be no more, neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more, for the former things have passed away. That's a key phrase again. And he who was seated on the throne said, "Behold, I am making all things new." Also he said, "Write this down." So there's that difficult command again. "For these words are trustworthy and true." And he said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega." Speaks directly to John. I am the Alpha and the Omega. You know what that means, first and last. It's the Greek alphabet. The beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give from the spring of the water of life without payment. The one who conquers will have this heritage. We've talked about inheritance before. It's coming back again. Who will be God's Yahweh's inheritance? Israel. But it's going to expand in this passage. The one who conquers will have this heritage, and I will be his God, and he will be my son. Remember the B'nai Elohim. All of this stuff is coming back. It's all factoring in here. As for the cowardly, the faithless, the detestable, as for murderers, the sexually immoral, and there's that word we talked about a couple weeks ago, I think on a Sunday morning, I can't remember, porneia. He covers a wide swath. The sexually immoral, sorcerers, we talked about that word too, pharmakia. We get our word drugs, drug use. Idolaters and all liars, their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. And remember, fire is always a picture of what? Judgment. Then came one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls full of the seven last plagues. We've seen these before. And spoke to me saying, "Come," that particular angel, "come and I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb." And he carried me away in the Spirit to a great high mountain. That's really significant. I think we're going to get that far tonight and spend a little time there. And he showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, having the glory of God, its radiance. Now here begins what I call the gem list. which admittedly can get a little tedious. So we'll get up to it tonight and we'll tease a little bit, but we'll jump into it next time. But just bear with it. Here, admittedly, a little tedious, a little hard. Having the glory of God, its radiance was like a most rare jewel, like jasper, clear as crystal. It had a great high wall with 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels. And at the gates the names of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel were inscribed. On the east, 3 gates. On the north, 3 gates. On the south, 3 gates. On the west, 3 gates. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them there were 12 names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. We're going to find out, probably not tonight, maybe we'll touch on it in a minute. This is all Ezekiel talk. Ezekiel 40 through 48 is his big temple passage where he talks about the temple and the measuring of the temple. And the one who spoke with me had a measuring rod, here it's very Ezekiel-like, of gold to measure the city and its gates and walls. The city lies 4 square. We've got songs like that, don't we? Its length the same as its width. And he measured the city with his rod, 12,000 stadia. Its length and width and height are equal. He also measured its wall, 144 cubits by human measurement, which is also an angel's measurement. Boy, that sounds mysterious. The wall was built of jasper, more gems, while the city was of pure gold, like clear glass. Figure that out. Again, you get the distinct impression he's trying to describe things he can't describe. Clear gold. What is that? The wall was built of jasper, while the city was of pure gold, like clear glass. The foundations of the wall of the city were adorned with every kind of jewel. And here it goes. The first was jasper, second sapphire, third agate, fourth emerald, the fifth onyx, the sixth carnelian, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, the 10th chrysoprase, the 11th jacinth, the 12th amethyst. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each of the gates was made of a single pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, like transparent glass. There it is again. Now here, this is very interesting stuff. Back to the whole temple thing. And I saw no temple in the city. How strange is that? You've had Ezekiel and Isaiah, and he's drawn from them, and Jeremiah and Zechariah. All this temple focus, and now there's no temple. For its temple is the Lord God the Almighty and the Lamb. We're going to come back to that. And the city has no need of sun or moon to shine in it, for the glory of God gives its light, and its lamp is the Lamb. By its light will the nations walk. So here come the nations again, the ethnic. And the reclaimed nations. And the kings of the earth will bring their glory into it, and his gates will never be shut by day. Isn't that interesting? Never be shut by day. Spoiler, and there will be no night there. In other words, the gates are always open. What is that about? They will bring into it the glory and honor of the nations, but nothing unclean will ever enter it, nor anyone who does what is detestable or false, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. Wow. We're not going to chase down every phrase there, but some select phrases. But one that kind of hits initially, and you may want to note a few of these, is this whole thing about nothing unclean will ever enter it. What that's doing is that's pretty much covering a question like, will there be sin in the new earth, the new heavens? Will there be an opportunity for rebellion again? What's the answer? No. No. Nothing unclean will ever enter it. So there's no possibility that we're going to go down this route and watch this movie again, right? Nothing unclean will ever enter it. So the text is fairly clear there. Again, the question is, what are the Old Testament passages that are kind of inform this, kind of like antecedents to this, that make this make sense? there's more in this Revelation 21, verses 1, verse 5. There's description about this new heaven and new earth, and we're told that the former things won't be remembered. Now that's pretty key. Former things won't be remembered. Okay? The new earth, and this is the last thing, is going to be forever in contrast to the old earth. It'll be like it, but not like it. It'll have familiarity for us, and it won't be foreign to us, but it will be very different. In other words, it'll be home. It'll be very homey, if you want to think of it that way. So let's jump in. Let's take a look at this phrase. And again, we're just going to look at some select phrases, but one of them is no more sea. Okay? Anybody have a clue what we're talking about there? No water? What's he saying? No chaos. People can be a chaos agent. In the Old Testament, the sea, the churning sea, that's a picture of chaos. People can be a churning sea and also be chaotic. In our study of Jude on Sunday, we touched a couple weeks ago about these 5 descriptions of false teachers that can sneak in to a church. And one of them is that they're like the waves of the sea that churn up trash, foam, debris. What do they call it? Flotsam and jetsam. It's just junk, gunk. Think of the crud you see underneath of a dock sometimes. It's just all manner of junk. And the sea can be like that. Jude picks that up too. So that's a familiar Old Testament image. So this no more sea thing in verse number 1. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. First heaven, first earth had passed away. Okay, that's where they went. And there's no longer any sea is the first piece of information we get. So what's he saying here? Well, nothing unclean will enter it. He tells us, secondly, that former things aren't going to be remembered. There's going to be this constant contrast, old and new. And so it's not surprising, no more sea, because the sea is a really well-known chaos picture. It's a metaphor for chaos. We've got to remember that John is dealing with metaphors and pictures, and so much of our Bible is in poetic language. When we very first started this a long time ago, we talked about how in the wisdom of God, the Word of God has come to us through the Hebrew language, which is not like English or Latin. It's not really like too many other languages, Western languages. It's a very Eastern language in that it's very rich in word pictures. There are other languages like that too, but they tend to be Eastern languages where you wouldn't use Hebrew for science. It's not precise enough. A word can mean a lot of things. It can bring a whole bunch of different images to your mind, and it's meant to. I mean, think about it. The Lord is my shepherd. Okay, is he really standing there with a big crooked stick? No. Because you're really not a sheep. But what's the image that's being conveyed there? Protection. Shepherd protects. That's why my job title is pastor. It means, if you're a Spanish speaker, you know it means shepherd. Well, your primary job is protection. That's why a pastor is supposed to teach people how to pray so they'll be protected, can protect their own family, and the word, and how to spot phoniness and all that. That's the job. That's the function. to protect. So Hebrew, very rich language. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. See how the language in that is getting ready for that money phrase, he restores my soul. But it uses all these pictures, you know, laying down by quiet waters, green grass, right? Hebrew is very fitted for that. And we've always got to remember that's what these people are, that's part of what they're operating in. Now, this is written obviously in Greek, but he's informed by that. John, he's informed by that. His history is that. His people are that. And so to think in these metaphors, not unusual. And this picture of a no more sea, that's a very well-known picture of chaos, right? From the Old Testament. Over and over again, you get it. Picture of chaos. Because the sea is to be feared. Why would you be afraid of the sea? You can't control it. I mean, we just heard another case of it's tragic, of a father and a small child, and the child got swept out to sea, and the father went after him, and they both perish. Just up near San Francisco, the Bay Area. Just what, last week? Now, I imagine that guy was a smart guy, intelligent guy. He knew what he was dealing with, but it got away from him. The sea is to be feared, you see, because it is unpredictable and it's so powerful. Its pull, think of that, its pull. It will pull you to danger. You're out there dabbling around, you know, at Pismo, and then all of a sudden, it could happen. It does happen. Huh? It does that too. It will tear down a mountain eventually, beat against it long enough. We love to go to Avila, but it's been about 5 years ago. I don't go to Avila so much anymore because a lady near the pier, shark, got her, took her away. Everybody's just having a good time and fun, and then she just gets taken away. So anyway, it's to be feared. So it's that chaos metaphor. What else? I mean, you think about the sea. It's not tameable. You can tame an animal, a horse, other big animals, elephants. Can't tame the sea. It's untamable. You cannot control it. It's unpredictable. It's hostile to human life. People cannot live there. You cannot stay in it, right? For any length of time, it will take over. But also in the Old Testament, what lives in the sea? Leviathan. This scary monster, this sea monster that Job goes to some length to describe, and however you image it, it's terrifying. Is it a big dinosaur? Is it a killer shark? I don't know what it is. Is it a giant crocodile? I don't know. But it's terrifying. Leviathan is there. The Bible talks about, Old Testament talks about it's the place of the dragon. There are dragons there. And so now we get this image, no more sea. Which means?
No more chaos?
No more chaos. Think of a chaos-free existence. You won't even have the frustration of losing your keys. Let alone big international chaos. I mean, coming over, I was listening to a discussion, some smart people talking about how are they going to negotiate peace with Russia. I guess we've got some smart people there right now in Moscow. But how are they going to do it? I don't know how they're going to do it. It's chaotic. No more of that. No more chaos of any kind. That's what's being conveyed by this image of no more sea. So whatever it means, it can only be good news, because the whole idea of the sea in the Old Testament, it's hostile to humans. You can't live there. Leviathan is there. The dragon is there. All these symbols, all these metaphors, these pictures, they're all in operation here, all in relation to the sea, and they come to an end because he says, in this new creation, the sea is no more. Now, let's just stop for a minute and talk about, is this literal? Is he telling us there's no ocean, new heaven, new earth? Is that what he's telling us? What do you think? I don't think so either. What would be the point of that? In this story, in this narrative, he's trying to tell us what he's seeing, and he says, no more sea. Does that mean no more H2O with salt in it over two-thirds of the Earth's surface? Not likely. To be super literal with places like this in the Bible is the mistake of sometimes the friends of the Bible. We call them fundamentalists, right? We love them, but they're a little on the wooden-headed side, right? Well, bless God, it says no more sea. There ain't going to be no water. But that's the fault of the friends of the Bible, but it's also the fault of the critics of the Bible. You will find that sometimes the most people that take the Bible most literal are the people that criticize it. And they accuse all of us of being wooden heads. They're the most wooden-headed of all, right? So it's not likely when you hit a passage like this that's so rich in imagery from the Old Testament, where something like the sea talks, it means chaos, chaos agents, chaos all the time. Chaos because of divine beings, chaos because of human beings, chaos because of rulers, chaos because it's scary, chaos because it's untamable. It's not likely that it means no water, no ocean water. So anyway, I just bring that up. One of the things that happens if you do go about a literal rendering of things like this is you're going to miss the things that this literal approach keeps you from seeing. Let's say we say, bless God, it means no water. Okay, then what have I just missed about the new heaven and the new earth? I've got a dry planet, but what have I missed? I missed the whole, there ain't no chaos. That's what makes it heaven. Not that it's dry. The thing that makes it heaven is chaos, up to and including losing my keys and blaming somebody else for it. It's all gone. These things don't happen. And it'll go on and it'll detail in this chapter, we read it, some of the things that means. But if you take this out-of-the-box literalistic approach, you're going to miss the things that are really the transcendent truths here, what he's trying to say that I saw. I saw a place with no chaos. Thank God. Okay? Let's see, where are we? I got a little carried away there. Somebody take a look in Jeremiah 4, verses 23 through 28. And one of the things that he seems to be indicating here with this whole no sea and all this and the other things we talked about, how it's there's nothing unclean, former things aren't remembered, this contrast with the old, all that seems to be what you could think of as an uncreation, a reversal of the Genesis 1 account. Take a look in Jeremiah 4, 23 through 28. Anybody got it? Can read it for us?
I looked at the earth, and behold, it was wasteland and emptiness, and to the heavens, and they were without their light. I looked at the mountains, and behold, they were quaking, and all of the hills were jolted to and fro. I looked, and behold, there was no person, and all of the birds of the sky had fled. I looked, and behold, the fruitful land was a desert, and all of its cities were ruined before Yahweh, before the face of his burning anger. For thus says Yahweh, all of the land will be a desolation, yet I will not make a complete desolation. Because of this, the earth will mourn, and the heavens above will become dark. Because I have spoken, I have planned, and I have not relented, and I will not turn back.
It was a fruitful land. It was a prosperous land. It was a good land. It was a healthy land. But now, it's uncreated. It reverts. There's a reversal. There's a decreation or an uncreation that seems that Jeremiah says he's talking about there. And that's the language that John is borrowing. That's the concept that he's borrowing here. 2 Peter does the same thing. Take a look. And you could almost think of what 2 Peter is talking about as kind of a dissolution of creation. In fact, he uses the word dissolved. And it comes out in some of our translations. Somebody read 2 Peter 3, 11, 12, 13 for us.
Since everything will be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be? You ought to conduct yourself in holiness and godliness, as you anticipate and hasten the coming of the day of God, when the heavens will be destroyed by fire and the elements will melt into heat. But in keeping with God's promise, we are looking forward to a new heaven and a new earth where righteousness dwells.
Some of the same language is used, but some of the same imagery, new heaven, new earth, but this dissolution, this dissolving, in this case by a great heat. And what is fire a picture of? Again, judgment, God getting involved, setting things right. And our Revelation 21 uses the same kind of imagery that Jeremiah used, the 2 Peter used. So it's not unusual what he's doing here. But he's drawing very explicit attention to the absence of several things. Death, mourning, crying, pain. We see that in Revelation 21. Let's push a little bit further. Take a look at some of these chaos images. I want to get up close and personal here. Look in Job. I referenced Job a minute ago. Take a look in Job 7:12. If you're following along online, Job 7:12, Psalm 74:13, Isaiah 27:1. And here, live and in person, who's got Job 7:12? Got it?
Am I the sea or the monster of the deep, that you must keep me under guard? When I think my bed will comfort me, and my couch will ease my complaint, then you frighten me with dreams and terrify me with visions.
Okay, there's that monster business. How about Psalm 74:13? Anybody have it?
You split open the sea by your strength. You broke the heads of the sea monsters in the waters.
See, this sounds like fantastic language. But when you begin to see it through the lens that John is seeing it through, it begins to fall in place and make sense. He busts the heads of the sea monsters.
And the next scripture says, it was you who crushed the head of Leviathan.
The Leviathan again.
You fed him to the creatures of the dust.
And you've got the reference to those waters, right? So this is all chaos talk. All chaos images. One more, Isaiah. I picked Job and Psalm and Isaiah because they're different in time and they're different genres and they're different people. But they all have this common thread, and John is drawing on all of it. Isaiah 27:1. Who's got it?
On that day, Yahweh will punish with his cruel, great, and strong sword Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, and Leviathan, the twisting serpent, and he will kill the sea monster that is in the sea.
So that line, there's no more sea. John is saying no more chaos. No more chaos agents. No more repercussions because of chaos. I mean, one of the things I think about all the time, and I have to not think about it, is how much it has cost our society, our civilization, our way of life, our peace of mind, our money, the whole drug issue. How it's unsettled families, how it's killed people, literally, how it's destroyed whole family structures, how it's emptied people's life savings, trying to help, how they've had to set up it's been so costly to set up treatment programs and prevention programs, and how it's just coarsened our whole discourse, how certain drug words have entered into our vocabulary and we use them all the time. I mean, just the whole thing is dirty. And what he's saying here with this destruction, no more chaos agents, no more repercussions because of chaos, and that's only one small example. But no more having to deal with it. None. It's all gone. No more. And he goes on to say, no making allowance for it. You don't have to worry about it. There's no more enemy. There's no more death. There's no more suffering. No more. That's all balled up in his discussion of no more sea, no more chaos agent. So we're going to know that that's what it means. That's an Old Testament thought. And when he says the sea is no more, people that John is writing to, his audience, his immediate audience, they understand it completely. Again, in this place, this new, restored, global Eden, everything else that has gone before it, the fallenness, it's all passed away. No more sea means no more chaos. It means there's no more enemy, there's no more sin, there's no more death, there's no more suffering. It's all over. It's all over. And that's what he's trying to convey to us here. It's all over. There's a really good summary in Isaiah 61:10 of what we're talking about here. Everything is going to be restored. Let's look at 61:10 as kind of a summary statement of what we're talking about here. Who's got it? Anybody? Go ahead.
I will rejoice greatly in the Lord. My soul will exult in my God, for he has clothed me with garments of salvation and wrapped me in a robe of righteousness. As a bridegroom wears a priestly headdress, as a bride adorns herself with her jewels.
We saw all this gem talk. We'll talk about more next time. We saw all this temple talk that he's borrowed from Ezekiel and Isaiah and Jeremiah, Zechariah. And this restoration of the temple talk. And it all works out in the fulfillment in this new city and this new creation. Ezekiel 40 through 48 is the big temple vision for Ezekiel, and a lot of this is drawn from that. We're not going to go back and look at all that now. But the new city, the new creation, what is that? It's the temple restored. That's what this new Jerusalem, new heavens, new earth, that's what it is. It's the restored temple. It's all that temple restoration talk. It finds its completion in this new heaven and new earth, where there is no temple. Why? Because the whole thing is a temple. The whole thing is where he lives. Now, let me just think back. When Eden is established, remember, the pattern is on earth as it is in heaven. What God has in heaven, Yahweh has in heaven, he wants on earth. That's the purpose of earth. He wants it duplicated, patterned, right? And that's why that phrase shows up over and over again in the Bible and even works its way into our favorite Lord's Prayer. Okay? As in heaven, so on earth. That's the point. So you look at Eden, what is it? Well, what's there? There's divine beings. There's human beings. It's perfect. God is there, enjoying the presence of His divine family and His earthly family that are interacting there. That's why Eve it didn't startle her when this divine being starts talking to her, right? It wasn't unusual. It was the way it is. God has what He wanted. But what was their mandate? This is before the fall. What was their mandate? It was to expand Eden. Eden at that point is localized. But the desire is that as the population grows, it's all going to become my home. My family is going to expand. And I'm going to be with it. And it's all going to become my home. That was our mandate, to make the whole thing Eden. It didn't happen, right? It got totally bungled up, and the earth went the other way. This is new heaven, new earth, Eden restored. The difference between that Eden and this Eden is the whole world. The whole thing, you see? The whole thing is the temple. The whole thing is where God lives. The whole thing is where He's with His family. You see? So we get not only Eden restored, but we get Eden expanded the way it's supposed to be. So there's no place where there's chaos in Eden. You see? So that's what's going on here. And if you care to go back into Ezekiel 40 through 48, that's his temple talk and temple vision and all of that. We're not going to look at all of that. But let's look at one verse in Ezekiel 43, or one passage. Ezekiel 43, 1 through 7. I want you to see that. Let me just, really it's verse 7 that I want you to see, but kind of need a lead up, because we're not super familiar with a passage like this. Then he led me, this is verse 1, Ezekiel 43. Then he led me to the gate. This is Ezekiel. Divine being is temple talking with him. Then he led me to the gate facing east. Remember we saw east, west, north, south in that description. And behold, so the prophet is led by this, he says, man in linen, this guide. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel was coming from the east. And the sound of his coming was like the sound of many waters. And the earth shone with his glory. And the vision I saw was just like the vision that I had seen when he came to destroy the city. And just like the vision that I had seen by the Kebar Canal. And I fell on my face. So he's had lead-up visions to this. I fell on my face as the glory of the Lord entered the temple by the gate facing east. The Spirit lifted me up. Well, that sounds a lot like John, doesn't it? And brought me into the inner court, throne room scene. And behold, the glory of the Lord filled the temple. While the man, verse 6, was standing beside me, this one in linen, I heard one speaking to me out of the temple. And he said to me, Son of man, human one, this is the place of my throne. Guess who's speaking? And the place of the soles of my feet. Remember what's in the Holy of Holies? The mercy seat, the throne. Okay? This is the place of my throne and the place of the soles of my feet. And what is the temple? It's a picture of Eden, right? This is, and the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the people of Israel forever. Okay, this is a significant promise here. Israel has been judged, but now he's looking to a time when Israel is restored, and the house of Israel shall no more defile my holy name. Neither they nor their kings by their whoring and by the dead bodies of their kings at their high places. High places is where the rival gods were worshipped. All of that is done away with. Again, no sea, chaos, all gone. This is the expectation. This is Ezekiel's expectation of a new temple. It's going to get cited over and over again in this city and the new creation and all of that. But interesting, God says to Ezekiel, this is the place of my throne and the place of the soles of my feet. Now that language is really important. The throne, remember? Again, Ark of the Covenant. What's on top of the Ark of the Covenant? The mercy seat. Right? The mercy seat. And you remember, you got the cherubim, the throne guardians, deciding who comes in. Right? They're guarding it. That's their job. And at one point, it's also called the footstool of the Lord. So you should expect that in the temple. But in Revelation, the temple is the city itself. Again, there is no temple. The Lord is the temple. Christ is the temple. So this verse takes a temple expectation on the part of Ezekiel, and the way John uses it is not of a temple but of a city. And again, we're talking about Zion, which what is Zion? It's the new earth. It's the place where God lives. It's his home. Zion, the Temple Mount. Okay? See how it's all balled together? So you've got Eden is Zion, and it's expanded to include the whole earth the way it was originally intended. In fact, it's the whole everything. Remember that image of the gates are open and they're never shut? Everything. The whole cosmos is included. The whole thing. Wow. This is a very big deal. It's not a localized little heaven, right? It's a very big deal. Let's see if we can kind of wrap some things up here. In that 43:7, that's a promise in Ezekiel that we looked at. It's echoed and it's fulfilled in Revelation 21:3. What's 21:3 say? And I heard a loud voice from the throne. Didn't we see that? Voice from the throne. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, behold, the tabernacle of God. What is a tabernacle? It's a house, but a particular kind. It's the place where you met God. It was movable. It was portable, right? It was portable. But it's a place where God lived and where you could come to meet God. So look at that verse. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is among men. We read that in Ezekiel. He lives among his people. He was telling Israel in Ezekiel, God will live among you. He will be your people. He will be your God, and you will be his people, and he will live with you. And there will no longer be any mourning or crying or pain, and the first things have passed away. And he who sits on the throne, again, talking from the throne again, behold, I am making all things new, right, for these words are faithful and true. So the promise of Ezekiel 43, verse 7, is fulfilled here in Revelation 21:3. And John is borrowing that. It's an end-time temple where God would dwell among the sons of Israel forever. Tabernacle among the sons of Israel forever. Okay? So that's what we've got going on here. That's what's happening here. The expectation is really of a new Eden. But Eden is the whole earth, and that has never happened before. Not even at the beginning, as perfect as it was. Now it happens. And not just confined to the earth, but everything. Everything. Wow. That's what we've got going on here. And that's why he borrows all that Ezekiel language. Let's finish up with this. Take a look in Leviticus 26, verse 11 and 12. Because I want you to see something we talk about how John repurposes, right? How he borrows, he reaches back, and he gets images, and he gets little bits and pieces, and he gobs them all together. And that's why I said in this chapter 21, we can't run all this down. I mean, it's just, there's so much. It's so rich. It would take us a year just to go through this chapter and connect all the dots. But that's what he does. But others have done it before him. Take a look in Leviticus 26, 11, and 12. What's it say?
And I will put my dwelling place in your midst, and my inner self shall not abhor you. And I will walk about in your midst, and I shall be your God, and you shall be my people.
This presence of God with his people. The original plan, as in heaven, so on earth, that got all messed up. And when God goes into the garden in the cool of the evening to meet with him, like always, like he wants to, like who knows for how long he'd done it, he senses something is amiss here. Of course he knows. And they're hiding. And the whole thing is ruined, at least for now. And then he sets about with a plan to restore it all. His plan will be worked out. It will not just be a localized Eden, it will be a cosmos-wide Eden, much bigger than anticipated. Anyway, you get all of that working together, but Revelation 21 is an echo of what we saw in Ezekiel 43, which is an echo of Leviticus 26, 11 through 12. You see how it all works together? So what we get in Revelation 21, we say, wow, that's all new information. Not really. It's been the plan all along that God would dwell with his people. All the way back in Leviticus. All the way back to the beginning. But in Revelation 21, here's the big kicker. That we can read past because we read too fast and because we're not thinking like they thought. The earth-shattering difference is that in Ezekiel, borrowed from Leviticus, it was Israel. But in Revelation 21, it's not just Israel, but it's all who've overcome. Jew, nations, everybody. That's an overcomer. Remember, go back to the beginning, the letters to the churches. You'll either be overcome or you'll be an overcomer. When we get to chapter 4 with the presence of the thrones for the overcomers, apparently we overcame. And we're in. We're okay. We're holy ones now. And we're in the throne room scene. So for all overcomers, it's not just Israel now. That whole thing's expanded. And we'll stop there for now. But the idea is that God said, I will tabernacle among my people. When we come back next time, we'll talk about that word. I've given you the Greek equivalent there. And it's really, really significant, and we need to spend a minute dwelling with that because it's rich. It's a rich concept. The idea of God tabernacling with his people has always been his thing, you see, and now it gets worked out, and God is happy. He's happy. He gets what he wants. He gets what he wants. The way I say it is, I've had God mad at me. I would rather have him happy with me. So anyway, we'll stop there. We have more, but we'll come back next week, pick up with the tabernacling idea and how that works into the whole incarnation of Jesus, God living among us. And it works into the idea of the body of Christ, God living among us. Anyway, it's pretty fascinating stuff. Let me just end with this. Because I've had occasion in the last week or so, there's a young man that I've known for years, and he lives in another state. And anyway, he's reached out, and I'm helping him walk through some things. And we're talking about this whole idea of God tabernacling. So it's kind of fresh in my mind. But one of the things that you find out, again, if you read carefully, look closely, that God has always wanted to tabernacle with his people. He's always wanted to live among, again, Leviticus, Ezekiel, 21 of Revelation. It's a consistent theme. As in heaven, so on earth, all that. He's always wanted to tabernacle with his people. But at this juncture, at this point in history, human history, throughout this human history up to this point, he most often tabernacles with his people not in our strength, but in our weakness. That's the way he offers it right now. And that's why, for a whole lot of reasons, success doesn't teach us anything. If you look at the speech that is the book of Deuteronomy, Deuteronomy means the second telling or the retelling of the law. And if you've read it, you know it's a recounting by an old man of their experiences over the last more than 40 plus years. And he runs through it all. And like an old man remembering things, he repeats. And there are about 3 places where you say, okay, old guy, this would be a good place to stop. I get the point, but Moses keeps going. And to me, it's got the ring of truth. If you've ever sat with an old man who's recounting things, that's the way it is. But one of the things that he points out continually, and you can tell because it's a word he uses over and over and over again, is the word remember. In fact, a very good study, and an easy one, would be to take Deuteronomy, which is a speech, it's his swan song, and underscore or highlight or circle or whatever your mom lets you do in your Bible, every time that word remember is used. It's a lot. And what he's saying is, in this retelling, is you're getting ready to go into the promised land where you will take cities you did not build and you will eat the crops you did not plant. And it's going to be pretty much a pushover because I'm going to be with you, right? Most especially, they're going to dispatch the chaos agents, the giants, right? The clans, the giant clans. But you're going to take over this land, and it's not going to be that hard. All you got to do is walk around cities, and they'll fall down. How hard is that? You don't even need a trained army for that. And good thing, because they didn't have a trained army. And he said you're going to have success after success after success. That's what he sees for them as he looks into the promised land he can't enter. But he says, remember, remember, remember. Because you're going to have all these successes, and the danger is you will forget your failures. Because you don't learn anything in your successes, you learn everything in your weaknesses. At this point, God tabernacles with our weakness, you see. And so this whole thing we're going to pick up next time, tabernacling, is a really key thing in the Scriptures that I think has been often overlooked. And maybe because we're Americans and we've placed such a high value on success and accomplishment, and I don't downplay any of that, but we put such an inordinate emphasis on it that we are our successes. And the Bible says, no. God does his best work, not in your success, but in your weaknesses, you see. That's where he shows up. So anyway, we'll pick up next time with the whole tabernacling with humans thing. So for those that have joined us online, thank you, and we bid you a fond adieu. And you don't get to be part of the bonus section. So we'll see you next time.